This is episode 3, the subsystems of language. In this section, we're going to talk about the subsystems of language. The subsystems of language provide us with the tools to describe and analyze language in an objective and systematic way. In other words, they break down the language so that we can more easily understand it. The way they do this is to organize the language into 5 broad subsystems, and these subsystems are, firstly, phonetics and phonology. We then have morphology and lexicology. Next, we have syntax. Then, number 4 is discourse. And finally, there's semantics. Now, I know I'm saying this first, second, third, fourth, but really they're in no particular order, but this is the order that we're going to go through them today. So each of these subsystems are quite detailed, and this video series, the whole series, touches on morphology, lexicology, syntax and semantics. But there are future series planned that go deeper into these and the other subsystems. So right now, we'll just take a brief overview of what each subsystem covers and how they work together to describe the overall grammar. So we're going to start with phonetics and phonology. Now, phonetics and phonology are all or both about sound. Phonetics is about the production of sound, and phonology is about the perception of sound. So I'm just going to write those down. For example, let's take the sound P or P. P says P. Now we make this sound by holding our lips together in such a way that they block the flow of air escaping from our mouths. When enough air has gathered behind our lips, we open our lips and the air explodes outwards. This rush of air makes the sound P that we signify by writing P. Now this description of how we produce this sound and all our sounds is called phonetics. Phonology, on the other hand, is the way we receive the sound. The flow of air travels from our mouths, creating patterns or vibrations that the ear hears. The way we hear that sound is called phonology. Now again, we won't get bogged down in the science, but let's use P or P to see how this might be a little interesting. So we'll put the sound P into 3 different words. Firstly, let's use the word pot. We also have the word spot. And the last word we're going to put the P in is top. Let's pop that here. So we have pot, spot, and top. Now, hold your hand in front of your mouth and say the first word, pot. You should feel a blast of warm air as it escapes from your mouth and onto your hand when you say P, pot. Yes? Now, keep your hand in front of your mouth and say spot. Do you still feel the same amount of air on your hand? I don't. Therefore, the P is perceived differently, even though it's created similarly due to the sounds around it. Finally, let's say the last word in the list, top. Now some of you may have said top with the P sounding, but most of the time we would say top, as in it goes on top. And saying it like this, we don't actually hear the P at all. And these P's are all phonologically different, and they all have their own P symbols written in a phonologically different way. So we have P with aspiration, we have spot, and then we have top. Okay, morphology and lexicology both relate to words. Morphology has got to do with the grammar of the word itself, the different parts of the word, and how the word fits into the sentence. In other words, it breaks down the word. Lexicology has more to do with the whole word, its meaning, its etymology, and how the word can be decoded into different languages. For example, let's take the word rainbow. Here's our rainbow. Now, morphologically, we can see that the word rainbow is made up of two smaller words, rain plus bow. Now, both of these words and rainbow itself are nouns. That is, they're naming something, which is a very simple definition, but we'll explore that more later. And this is morphologically relevant. Lexically, we know that the word rainbow is derived from the Old English word regenbogen, which literally meant rain and the shape of an arc or a bow. We also know that most Germanic words share a similar etymology. We can provide a synonym for rainbow, that is, a word that shares a similar meaning, such as chromatic, and an antonym, such as monochromatic. Finally, we can say that the word for rainbow is niji in Japanese. All of this information is lexically relevant. Now, I think the subsystems get a little bit more straightforward from here. Syntax. Look at how words are put together to make a sentence. This includes sentence fragments such as phrases and clauses. And discourse refers to how the sentences are combined in text, either spoken or written. And it also talks about how the information is presented in order to make meaning. Now, let's bring our list of subsystems back so that we can see how they work together. Here it is. As you might have noticed, the subsystems kind of start looking very closely at sounds with our phonetics and phonology, and they zoom out to words, and then to sentences, and then to texts. And I can represent this with a triangle that covers these different subsystems. But what about semantics? Semantics is looking at how the different features of language contribute to make meaning. So semantics is all about meaning. And meaning is woven through all of the subsystems and can't really be distinguished independently. So I'm going to represent this by drawing a circle through all of the subsystems to show how semantics goes through all of them. After all, language is meaning making. So this is an overview of the subsystems. So let's start with a little bit of morphology and go into word class. And we'll identify what type of word each word is. So that's it on subsystems. Our next video is going to be on word classes. So until then, thank you for watching the language code.